The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
So it seems that we are always talking about some type of crazy prison/death row situation, some type of exoneration, usually coming to us from the South, Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, I don't know, Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah.
Very common. And now, a man has just been freed after 41 years of what is being called an unconstitutional life sentence. Gary Tyler entered a guilty plea and was sentenced to 21 years, just over half of the time served, and told he could go home Friday. This was a high-profile case. At the age of 16, he was on death row. Now, 1974, he was 16, and there was this incident where he was on a bus filled with black students. The bus was passing an unruly crowd of white students, and someone was shot. The gun was found on the bus. Tyler was charged with capital murder, tried as an adult. Now, of course, as you can imagine, there were people testifying against him. Later, people recanted, and it seemed like stories weren't lining up. In all likeliness, they needed to pin this on someone, and it happened to be him. Someone on the bus was going to get it, right? Well, there's a good chance someone on the bus did it, but it might not have been him.
Yeah.
So this is 41 years. There was 8 years in solitary confinement. This is incredible. I don't know how you don't just completely lose your mind after this.
Yeah.
So yet another story of an unfair conviction. The interesting thing about people testifying, it seems that in every case where people later recant, it doesn't seem that the law really goes after them, right?
After the people who recant their testimony.
Yeah, I mean, people
it's because it's very hard to prove perjury, right? I mean, a lot of times, if someone testifies to something and then they come back and they say, you know what, I can't really say for sure that it happened that way. Like, there is doubt. I want to recant my testimony. How can you prove that that person was lying at the time, right? I mean, you have to have very specific circumstances where you can either prove that they were enticed to give a particular testimony in exchange for something or for fear of some kind of reprisal or negative consequence. It's really hard to then, especially so much later, actually try someone for perjury. It's very rare. Yeah,
that's unfortunate. I guess it's just one of those things we have to deal with. But
how can you win? Because then you charge them with perjury. If there's any doubt about whether they were deliberately lying, then you're basically coming back with a not guilty verdict.
Yeah. Both black and white students who testified against him recanted.
Yeah.
Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals called his conviction fundamentally unfair, said he was never given the right to the presumption of innocence, but there was never a new trial. And so I guess I'm happy for this guy, finally out of there, and hopefully he can live a somewhat normal life now.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. All right. Even crazier. I know we covered 2 stories recently of murders in Bangladesh.
At least 2, yeah.
At least. Now, a Hindu tailor has been hacked to death in central Bangladesh. He was in his early 50s, sat outside his shop. Police said he had been arrested in 2012 for allegedly making derogatory comments about Islam. Yes, free and open Bangladesh, according to Reza Aslan, that fucking idiot. You can be arrested for making derogatory comments about Islam. The Islamic State claimed the attack. Authorities deny the group is active in the country, which is a weird thing to say because if you say you're Islamic State, you kind of are, right? I mean, it's not like they have rosters and people, who really knows?
This is always an issue, right? I mean, you say you're part of any group that is sort of amorphous, and then we have the difference between being part of the Islamic State and having pledged allegiance to the Islamic State, and is it any different operationally? I don't know. I don't know how to sort of parse that.
Yeah. And it doesn't stop there, Dave. Zulhaz Manan, a leading gay rights activist and editor in the country's only LGBT magazine. I'm shocked this even exists in this country.
I'm shocked that the number is 1 as opposed to 0. Yeah.
Yeah. Was hacked to death along with another man in his flat. That was on Monday, last Monday. And I guess a group affiliated to Al-Qaeda said that they were behind those killings. And so basically there are 3 more murders that it's just we can't even really cover all of them on the regular show.
Yeah, it would be almost the entire show.
Yeah. I really respect the hell out of someone who decides to stay in Bangladesh.
Yeah, really.
And actually, but at the same time, you'll never be able to raise awareness about this again. You're dead. And yeah, what do you do?
Is Bangladesh currently on the list of countries you would not visit?
Oh, I would never fucking go to this country. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm almost getting to the point where I'm going to look at where products I'm about to buy are made and make sure it doesn't come from Bangladesh.
Oh, that could be tough. There could be a lot of places you buy things from that are highly sourced from Bangladesh.
It could very well be, but it's to the point where if the government is arresting people for speaking out against Islam, how can you support the country?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, how can you support any country that has that level of oppression, yet people do all the time? You sort of have to pick your battles in a sense. You can probably, with so many countries, you use Chinese products, right? And you have a real problem with the Chinese government. Tons of your electronics are made in China. A lot of the stuff you have.
No, that can't be avoided. How can you even avoid that?
But so the point is, you're making a moral call when it's convenient enough to do it.
Convenient enough? Well, I don't feel I have a choice. How am I going to use computers and have nothing from China?
Maybe, I don't know. Is it even possible? I'm really not sure.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be using computers.
All right. Well, see you, Dave. Bye. Bye, everybody. That's the last bonus show ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is, I get what you're saying about electronics in China, but there's always sort of selective outrage to the extent of, I'm boycotting this or that. Or
No doubt. Yeah. It's just basically impossible to boycott Chinese products.
Yeah.
And I'm not at that level with China. I mean, it's a brutal regime. Luckily, it's not a religious one. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
Very true.
We can be thankful for that. Okay, let's move on to Belgium. Belgium just is handing out iodine tablets to its population. And when you hear this, you think, my first response, if the U.S. government was like, well, we're handing out iodine pills to everyone, I think to myself, oh, shit, this is really bad. Like,
Yeah.
Maybe I should get out of here right now. But, of course, they are saying that this is just in case there's a nuclear disaster. And iodine pills are supposed to, keep radiation away from the thyroid or something?
I think, yeah.
Something like that. And so they've already issued iodine tablets to people living within 12 miles of the country's nuclear power plants. The health minister, Maggie de Block, has explained that it's widening that net to 60 miles, effectively covering the whole country.
Feels very Cold War-ish, doesn't it? I mean, I know that this is for different reasons. It's because of the nuclear power plants, but it still feels very Cold War.
Yeah, it really does. And so, I mean, I guess you can be at ease a little bit knowing that these pills aren't being handed out because of a possible nuclear exchange of warheads. But still, if one of these plants is in your backyard, you've got to be thinking, oh boy.
Yeah.
What do they know that I don't? What aren't they telling me? And maybe it's not an issue. Maybe this is just a reasonable precaution because there are nuclear plants and bad things can happen. But
yeah, maybe the problem is the places that aren't doing it as a precaution for people living within certain radius. I mean, in Western Massachusetts, I don't remember how far Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant was, which is now being decommissioned.
Yeah.
But we were close enough that I think we were in the sort of second tier risk zone, like not the immediate fallout zone, but sort of like that second circle.
Yeah.
And nobody ever talked about anything. I mean, there was just no real mention of it, with the exception of particular anti-nuclear activists in the area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we know what happened at the plant. I mean, there were protests there all the time.
Yeah.
There were higher than acceptable or higher than higher than zero levels of radiation in some water around the plant and some
Right around the plant.
right
yeah.
around the plant. And it was, people were losing their minds. It was basically because of why was it that their contract was not renewed? Was it because the protesters finally had their way? I don't remember really.
My recollection is it was not because of the protesters.
Yeah, maybe it was just that the plant was kind of getting old, and
Yeah.
an entire revamping of the plant was not financially doable for the
Yeah.
company. I don't know, but anyway, they got their way, and I wonder what their energy bills look like now. Or when it's finally decommissioned, what they'll look like. I guarantee you they will not go down in price.
Depends what else is developed between now and then, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be dirty energy, whatever it is. And I'm
More
sure,
than likely.
sure it'll be pricey. Anything to add?
Not really. I'm trying to think. Better Call Saul season 2 is over.
Game of Thrones season 1 starting.
I heard about that. Yep. The Americans season 4, I believe we're in, it's just on fire. I mean, it's one of the best seasons. Understated in some ways, but still one of the best seasons. And
Well-
Frank Langella is in it. He's terrific.
Yeah, I may have to check that out after Game of Thrones wraps up.
You haven't started The Killing still?
Still haven't started that. Nope. I've been playing a lot of video games.
Right.
Let's be honest here.
What are you playing right now?
Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
Yep. It takes up a lot of time.
Is that single player?
No, it is a multiplayer game, and it's I mean, every time a Dark Souls game comes out, it wins Game of the Year.
Of course.
They're very popular games. They're very difficult games.
Right.
Games that our mutual friend Bob, I finally convinced him to play. I'm like, get this, we can play together. I need help, and
Good old Bob.
I would say within an hour, he was ready to quit and return the game because he was that frustrated.
Wow.
I said, Bob, you got to stick with it. It's a hard game. You'll get through this. You'll improve. He stuck with it, and he's obsessed now.
Incredible.
Yep. Dave, you should get it.
I doubt it.
Okay. All right. Yep. It'll keep some gray hairs off your head for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.